It was the morning of September 11, 2001.
Two planes apparently crashed into each tower.
As the eyes of the world were fixed on the terrorist attacks, a special election was being held in Massachusetts, where Stephen Lynch quietly won a vacant congressional seat. So it may be fitting that today, Congressman Lynch is devoting a great deal of effort to revealing long-held secrets from Congress's 9/11 investigation.
There's 28 pages that looks like redaction.
Yeah, and when I read it, I thought, this information is something that the public should have.
No ordinary American can view them, and members of Congress sworn to secrecy are only permitted to read the 28 pages under strict conditions.
She had to make an appointment with the Intelligence Committee and also go to a secure location. They take your pen, paper, electronics, you sit in a room and they watch as you read it.
In October of 2013, Lynch went to the secret room in the basement of the Capitol and began reading. The censored material begins on page 395 under the heading, Certain Sensitive National Security Matters.
As you're reading the pages, what kind of realization was coming to your mind?
It gave names of individuals and entities that I believe were complicit in the attacks on September 11th. They were facilitators of those attacks. They are clearly identified. How people were financed, where they were housed, where the money was coming from, the conduits that were used, and the connections between some of these individuals.
Individuals, he says, who were never brought to justice. But who are they, and why would the U.S. government want to keep the information secret? Former Senator Bob Graham thinks he knows. He co-authored the congressional report, including the 28 pages.
Here are some facts. The Saudis know what they did. Second, the Saudis know that we know what they did.
Graham has become a relentless advocate for releasing the records. He goes so far as to say the 9/11 Islamic extremist hijackers were only successful due to direct support from prominent Saudis named in the 28 pages. The Saudis deny that. 15 of the 19 hijackers were Saudi. Their leaders, al-Qaeda mastermind Osama bin Laden, was part of a powerful Saudi family with close ties to the royal family.
The position of the United States government has been to protect Saudi Arabia at virtually every step of the judicial process.
And that may be the problem. Could the 28 pages unravel the alliance between the U.S. and a close Arab ally in the Mideast? The mystery virus hit Seabrook, New Hampshire last year, disguised as a simple cold infecting teenager Dan Dugan. His father, Patrick.
We had taken him to his pediatrician a few times over the course of a couple of weeks, but they said, oh, no, it's just a bug. It's going around. Don't worry about it.
But it was something much worse. Dan woke up in the middle of the night, paralyzed.
I woke up and I waited until someone was awake.
And what'd you tell him?
That I can't move my legs.
Dan's parents rushed him to Tufts Medical Center in Boston. He was hospitalized for the next 49 days.
Do you remember how they told it to you or what they said?
They didn't expect him to ever walk again. They didn't expect him to have the use of his legs again. And that was, we were just destroyed. You know, we were devastated when we heard that, but they were more concerned like that he wouldn't even be able to breathe on his own when they were telling us this.
Alarming reports surfaced around the country. Respiratory illnesses so severe, many children ended up on mechanical ventilators. Some lost use of their limbs. Colin Lopez, an athletic teen in Oregon, suddenly paralyzed. Another child, Mackenzie Anderson, paralyzed from the neck down. Doctors say the patients had one thing in common, a virus called enterovirus D68, or EVD68, the dark circles in this microscopic image.
When they found out that everybody was having this enterovirus, then people got together and tried to figure out why this happened.
Dr. Scott Schroeder is a pediatric specialist at Tufts Floating Hospital for Children, where Dan was admitted. He says EVD68 is in the same family as one of the most feared viruses, polio.
It's of the same family, but the polio is like the black sheep of the family, and the enterovirus is just the nasty cousin that, doesn't do what it should do.
It was the similarities to polio that chilled scientists to the bone. At its worst, polio killed 3,000 and paralyzed 21,000 Americans in a single year back in 1952. Now, 35 years after polio was eradicated in the U.S., doctors urgently sought to learn why a distant cousin had reared its ugly head in such a toxic form. CDC's September 2014 statement was the last time it would address the outbreak on camera, yet things were about to get much worse.
Eli say crocodile.
5 days later, Eli Waller, seen in this home video with his triplet sisters, became the first to die.
It was a bolt out of the blue. I mean, that's really what it was.
Andy Waller of Hamilton, New Jersey, said his 4-year-old son Eli seemed perfectly fine when he went to bed, but he never woke up.
There really wasn't anything, that would indicate that he was susceptible to anything like this.
Sid, you want to try this?
Though EVD68 can be spread with a cough or sneeze, his sisters were unscathed. It all raised more questions than it answered, and the Wallers found facts hard to come by.
We were just running around, going from doctor to lab to next doctor to here and there, and we didn't have a handle of what was going on. It's like a thing that's out in the world. So that was the extent, really, of the information we got.
After Eli, others lost their lives. Madeline Reed, a toddler in Michigan. Emily Otrondo, a 10-year-old in Rhode Island. The outbreak that CDC wasn't anxious to talk about on camera was far more pervasive and deadly than one getting lots of attention, the measles at Disneyland.
Bottom line on measles, it can be a serious disease.
By way of comparison, the Disneyland measles affected 143 people in 8 states with no deaths. EVD68 seriously sickened more than 1,200 children in every state. 120 were paralyzed and 14 died.
You don't want to see anything like this ever happen to anyone.
Eli's favorite dog in Paw Patrol.
Today, Eli is missed. His family tries to keep grief at bay.
And early on, we really determined, if things can happen like that, we just got to make the most out of every little moment that we get with them.
I tickle you every day.
As for Dan, his left leg remains partially paralyzed and other limbs are weak, but he's defied predictions, going from wheelchair to walker to this. He's even managed enough balance to get back out on the family fishing boat.
I caught almost a 500-pound tuna. I steered the boat while my dad reeled it in.
He loves to be on the boat. And he ran the boat while we fought the fish and harpooned it, and he was so excited about that.
This season, the CDC is reporting sporadic paralysis cases, but won't say how many and won't talk to us on camera about the mystery disease. And frontline researchers are still looking for answers.
Why is it that some children get so sick and some even die from it?
That is the million-dollar question, is why some people get something, why some people don't. That's the thing that keeps me up at night, is how can we separate and determine who are the ones who are going to be more susceptible.
It was the best built building I had seen and still have seen in Afghanistan.
Inspector General John Sopko is talking about his tour of this building, bigger than a football field, shown on satellite photos at the U.S. military's Camp Leatherneck in south-central Afghanistan.
It's a beautiful building. It was well done. Fully furnished. It was huge. 64,000 approximately square feet.
Nicknamed 64K because of its size, Congress intended it to be headquarters for the 2010 U.S. military surge of 30,000 troops to fight Taliban Islamic extremists. There was just one problem.
The Marine commander, the general in the ground running the surge, said, "I don't want it, I don't need it, don't build it." And 2 other generals above him said the same thing. Don't build it. We don't need it. We already have a headquarters. It's a waste of money.
Yet the project moved forward, a facility designed to be big enough for a staff of 1,200, complete with a war room and briefing theater. But 64K never served as a surge headquarters. In fact, it was still under construction when the surge ended in 2012. Yet U.S. tax dollars continue to pour in for upgrades.
$3 million for audio and video electronics, another $500,000 for a video teleconference suite. Can you explain the mindset on a project that nobody wants anyway and is probably not going to be used, in which they keep upgrading it?
It is indicative of a problem in Afghanistan that we see time and again. You have the money, spend it. And that is the problem, not only in Afghanistan and not only with the military. It's a problem, I think, with the entire government. Once money is appropriated, you just spend it.
SOPCO puts the total cost of the project, including roads and utilities, at $36 million.
My left ear is the worst one.
That kind of waste has real meaning to Rick Helsley, a Marine Corps veteran who served in Afghanistan.
It's very frustrating because it's a constant struggle, especially active duty. I have friends that are working extra jobs on top of being in the military, trying to make ends meet. I have veteran friends that are scrounging the bottom of the barrel.
He's now attending college, working a security job, and struggling to get by with service-related disabilities that he says include back and hearing problems.
I read about them trying to cut active duty members' benefits and everything else, but they can go spend $30-some-odd million on a building that nobody even needs.
SOPCO, too, wanted to know just why 64K got built. Tipped off by generals on the ground, he sank his teeth into the mystery, only to feel stonewalled. In emails, Colonel Norman Allen, a senior military lawyer, told fellow officers he wanted to slow-roll responses to the Inspector General's questions. When SOPCO directed them to preserve documents, Colonel Allen emailed, "I don't know that he has authority to tell us to do that."
We found that very discouraging because it bordered on obstruction of our investigation.
Colonel Allen didn't respond to our interview requests. In writing, he said he never sought to interfere with the investigation and took strong exception to allegations that he did. SOPCO still managed to get a lot of evidence. Exhibit A came from Commander Larry Nicholson, lead general at Camp Leatherneck when 64K was commissioned.
My expectations for you are very high.
Nicholson had said in military emails, "I was greatly surprised, as were my colonels, to see that the 64K project had been initiated. We were very pleased with the current headquarters. I am confident that neither I or any of my team asked for, signed for, or formally or informally requested a new future headquarters for my successors." In May, SOPCO released his findings and finally identified who reversed the generals on the ground to give 64K the green light.
We found out that there was a general who was stationed in Kuwait.
Major General Pete Van Gel.
General Van Gel made a decision that since the money had been appropriated, a supplemental appropriation from Congress, that it would not have been prudent to give the money back even though you didn't need it. So basically, it was his decision.
Van Gel, now retired, declined our interview request, but disputed the findings. He said 64K addressed an operational need and the project was in line with the military's strategic intent. The Pentagon defended Van Gel's decision as prudent and said Camp Leatherneck was being considered as a potential enduring location for the military until the Obama administration decided to pull out of Afghanistan.
If you could tell someone who built that building, the general who said, "Go ahead," what would you say to him?
Why exactly did you spend $36 million on a building that nobody wanted or needed when there's so many other things you could have spent that money on?
In October of last year, the U.S. handed the brand new vacant 64K over to the Afghans, who discovered it was wired for U.S. electricity, not what they use, and found it too expensive to fully occupy.
That's the 64K. A wasted building, basically a 64,000 square foot white elephant in the desert that's probably going to deteriorate and fall down eventually because the Afghans cannot sustain it.
Today, 64K stands as a monument to wasted military construction dollars. Probably the nicest facility the U.S. ever built, but never occupied in all of Afghanistan, courtesy of American taxpayers.